The lights came up on the studio floor, casting a spotlight on the 4 contestants seated at sleek black podiums. The audience hushed, and Bradley walked into frame, camera tracking him from the back of the studio. He nodded to the crew, raised his cue card, and the iconic theme music pulsed. "Welcome to the chase. Let's meet our players." Bradley's voice was confident, warm, but with an edge of expectancy. He introduced them briefly: Claire, Mark, Jane, and Steve. All smiling, but the subtle glint of nervousness in their eyes was clear. The cash builder rounds flew by. Claire scored £5,000, Mark £3,000, Jane took a cautious £1,000. Then Steve, with a grin of determination, found his rhythm and banks a clean £4,000. The studio applauded. Bradley nodded appreciatively. "Okay, Steve, this is your moment. You can sit tight and bring your £4,000 back to your team, or you can step up and face the chaser for the full amount. What's it to be?" Steve's breath caught. He glanced at the camera, at the audience, at Bradley. Then he pushed the high offer. "I'm going for it," he said. Bradley smiled. "All right, good luck." The shot changed, and we saw the formidable figure of the chaser emerge. Jenny Ryan, the vixen, arms crossed, cold stare. The timer kicked in. Steve answered his opening few questions well. "That's the kind of start you want," Bradley noted, leaning into the camera. But then it happened. On one question, Steve froze. The seconds ticked by. He hesitated, searching his mind. The timer alarm sounded. He finally blurted an answer, but it was too late. The buzzer had already cut him off. The chaser scooped in and hit his cushion, sending Steve back to the safety of his team. But something had shifted. The energy in the studio, the tone of the game, even Bradley's voice. As the final chase approached, Mark and Jane had already been caught earlier. Only Steve, who returned, and Claire remained. The pressure mounted. Bradley's warm tones got sharper. Then Steve made his second critical error. With the team's pot on the line, he opted for a high-risk move, chasing after the full pot, though the chaser was breathing down their neck. The timer's red lights flashed. Steve flubbed an answer again. Time ran out once more. The chaser advanced one step. Bradley's smile flickered. The audience sensed the shift. Finally, with the team's total vastly reduced and time running out in the final chase, Steve's hesitation turned into frustration. He fumbled a question about a familiar pop culture reference. Jane and Mark were already out. Claire looked pale. Bradley's voice narrowed. "Steve, you cannot leave it that long. That's got to stop. You've got a yellow card." The phrase hit like a buzzer beater. A near silence followed in the studio. The audience gasped. Even Jenny, the chaser, raised an eyebrow. Steve looked down at his podium. "You were 3 ahead. You could have been 4 ahead if you weren't fiddling around," Bradley said, pacing slowly across the floor, eyes locked on Steve. "Focus. If you're going to be here, you have to be switched on." The camera cut to the audience. You could see phones lifted, eyebrows raised. One viewer tweeted almost immediately, "OMG, Brad giving him a yellow card is epic TV. Who times out on the chase for faffs?" Bradley stepped back, took a deep breath, and resumed his host persona, albeit tinged with a sharper edge now. The final chase started. Time ticked. The chaser zeroed in. The team's lead was minimal. With only seconds left, the chaser lunged forward and caught them. The prize vanished in a final buzzer. Bradley addressed the contestants. "Look, you had a good cash builder, you had a shot, but the mistakes came when it counted. That decision to hesitate, to not press your button when you knew it. I've warned you." He paused, letting the gravity sink in. "This is a quiz show. It moves fast. You must move faster." Steve nodded, the weight of the moment heavy. The studio lights changed, the applause polite but hollow. Bradley turned to camera and offered the closing lines, his signature warmth returning, but just a hint of disappointment lingering in his smile. In the green room afterwards, the team sat quietly. Claire flicked her gaze to Steve. Jane and Mark sat silently, the regret hanging in the air. Bradley walked in, offering off-mic encouragement. "Look, you were decent, but next time, don't hand over time like that." He clapped Steve on the shoulder. "You'll get another go if you want it, just learn." Audience members leaving the studio buzzed. Many said, "I've never heard Bradley so wound up." One comment echoed, "Never seen Brad get so heated. He seemed genuinely annoyed." And as the lights dimmed, Bradley looked into the camera one last time, a subtle warning in his gaze. "This is the chase. On my watch, you don't slow down, you don't falter, you don't hand over time to the chaser. Because one epic blunder, one moment of hesitation was enough to earn that yellow card. And in this game, it might just cost everything." I hope you enjoyed that story. If you like, I can whip up a second version with a different contestant type or a surprise twist. Would you like that?